Today we're going to show you how to rig our laser race kit. The main benefit of using the race kit is a lot more purchase with all of your sail adjustments, so it allows you to better adjust your Outhaul, your Cunningham, and also your boom vang. It should also be said that you don't have to use the whole kit. If you want to just use the boom vang or just the Outhaul, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay, to start things off, Sean's going to bring the kit over, pop the lid off, and toss it inside the boat so it doesn't blow away, and then we're going to pull everything out. That's our boom vang, all of our Outhaul gear, and then also our Cunningham. In order to keep it as simple as possible, we've tried to keep all the like pieces together, so there should be kind of 3 sections of line. Here we have our boom vang, here we have our Outhaul and all of the gear associated with it. We're using our clue tie to kind of tie it all together, and then here we have the 2 lines that we need for our Cunningham. So at this point you should already have the boat partially rigged. The first thing we need to do is take off the basic boom vang just by undoing the pin and the ring ding, and then we're going to put those back together, set that to the side, and then we'll bring our other boom vang over. Sean graciously figured out a system where all we have to do is bring the boom vang over to the vang tang and put in a pin. Just like you would then with a normal or a basic boom vang, we're going to hook that up to the boom, and then use the bungee, slide that over so that it doesn't pop out. Sean's then going to grab our basic boom vang and toss that back in the box just so we have tabs on it. And now we can move to our Outhaul system. So as you can see, everything is tied together right now with the clue ties, so we're just going to untie that, separate the different pieces so that we can see them all. Alright, so we should have 2 lines. One of them right here is long and will not have a pulley, won't have a block on it. And then we have a second line that's a little bit shorter that does have a block on it. In the middle we have our clue tie, and then we have our block that we're going to tie to the mast, and then lastly we have our bungee on the far left. We'll talk about the bungee later on, but the bungee is actually optional. There's also another block attached to a metal clip that isn't in this picture because we hadn't put it in the box yet, but here's an example of what it looks like, so it will be included in our Outhaul kit as well. So the first thing we're going to do is grab the block that we're going to tie around the mast, and we're going to do that with a simple square knot. After we tie it with a square knot, we're going to put it on the port side of the boat, and that's the side we're going to try to run all of our Outhaul kit on. We then are going to grab the longer of the 2 lines, which is also the line that does not have a block on it. We're going to go over to the cleat in the deck, and we're going to feed that through and cleat that off, just the very end of it. We'll then grab the tail, and we're going to feed it through the block in the deck of the boat. We're going to come up and feed it through the block around the mast, and then we're going to pull the tail back near this cleat on the boom. Now I'm going to grab the second of our Outhaul lines, which is a little bit shorter, the one that has the block in it, and we're going to feed the longer of the lines, the tail, we're going to feed that through. Now that it's fed through the block, we're going to find the tail, and we're going to tie this with a bowline to the cleat on the boom. So if we look what we've done so far, the Outhaul goes from the cleat in the deck, then to the block at the base of the mast, up to the block around the mast, back through the block on the boom, and then tied with a bowline to the cleat on the boom. Alright, for our second line, we're going to feed the tail through the fair lead at the very back of the boom, and then finish our Outhaul. For this next part, there are 2 ways to do the Outhaul, option 1 and option 2. We're going to show you both options and kind of talk about the pros and cons of each, and then you can choose whichever you'd prefer. Okay, for option 1, we're going to be using this block and metal clip that we talked about before. The benefit of using this is that it makes hooking up to the clue of the sail really easy, especially if it's really windy, which is beneficial. The downside is that it's one more piece of hardware that you have to keep track of. So Sean is going to start by taking the tail of our line through the fair lead at the back of the boom. And then he's going to take the tail either up or down through the block And then we're going to finish by tying a bowline to the fair lead at the back of the boom. So the end product should look like this with the clip facing aft. So right now is going to be actually a great example of the benefit of using this because the wind is picked up a bit, the sail's luffing. Once Sean grabs it, all he's going to have to do is hook up that clip to the clew and we're set. Here's another example just a little bit closer, just seeing how easy it is to slide that clip in. Next, we're going to tighten the outhaul, which will bring the sail closer to the boom and make it easier to do our clew tie. Tying the clew tie will be the same as our basic kit. We'll feed the clew tie through the clew once or twice depending on the length of the line, and then secure with a square knot. Alright, for option 2 we're going to do something very similar, just not use the block. So we take the tail through the fair lead at the back of the boom. We're then going to feed the tail through the clew of the sail. And now we're going to tie a bowline to the fair lead at the back of the boom. So the benefit of doing this is that you don't have to keep track of that extra hardware. The downside of using this is that you're holding onto the line, the boom, which is also attached to the sail. So if it's a windy day and the sail is luffing, it's going to be harder to tie this bowline. And then just like we would with option 1 or our basic kit, we're just going to secure our clew with our clew tie. Remember, that will be a square knot. Lastly, Sean's going to come up to the front of the boat and daisy chain the control line. One of the things we're trying to do here is prevent the line from being so long that it can get caught in the main sheet block. And another way to prevent that is to tie a handle on your control line with a bowline. Alright, now we can start rigging up our Cunningham. We're going to have 2 lines, one shorter, one longer, and each will have a block on it. The first thing we're going to do is take our short line and take the tail through the tack of the sail, and we're going to try to keep everything on the starboard side of the boat since the outhaul system is on the port side of the boat. Notice that when we feed the tail through, we're pulling it back onto the starboard side of the boom. It's also really important through this entire process to make sure that we keep this block as high and as close to the tack as possible. If your block is too low, like it is in this situation, your Cunningham system won't work properly. We're now going to take the tail of our first line and we're going to run it under this pin on the boom vang. We're going to pull the slack out, making sure it's nice and tight, and then we'll secure it by tying a number of half hitches. Now we can grab our second line. We're going to find the tail and feed the tail through the first block. We're going to do that until the second block and the first block are touching. Then we're going to come down and we're going to wrap the second line one full circle around the vang tang. Once we do one full circle, we're going to bring the tail back up to that second block and we're going to feed it through. Once we do that, we're going to bring the tail back down to the block in the deck of the boat. We're going to feed that through, and then we're going to feed the tail through the cleat in the deck of the boat. Just like we did with the outhaul, Sean's going to daisy chain the control line and tie a handle in the end of it. Alright, like I said at the very start, the bungee cord is an optional piece. The purpose of the bungee cord is when you loosen your outhaul, the bungee will help pull the sail towards the mast, giving the sail more draft. So Sean's going to grab the bungee and we're going to feed one end through the cleat on the boom. Once he feeds it through, he's going to do a double overhand or a figure 8 knot. On the other end of the line, he's going to tie a figure 8. Now we're going to pull the bungee and we're going to tie it around our clue tie. So we're going to go underneath the clue tie and then do a simple overhand knot. Based on your sail and the length of your bungee, you can tighten the bungee if you need to, and then wrap it around the mast and secure it. Lastly, we're going to grab our box and the lid, and we're going to walk it over to the dock box, toss it in there so it doesn't blow away. When you're done sailing, we want to make this as easy as possible for the next person. So we're going to try to put all of our lines away in the same way that they were when you got the box. So we have our boom Vang, we have our 2 Cunningham lines, and then our whole Outhaul kit is tied together with our clue tie. Sean's going to pull the basic boom Vang out of the box. We'll toss the Cunningham lines in. We'll toss the whole Outhaul kit, and then we're going to put our boom Vang in. Now we want to make sure that we don't twist the boom Vang, so we're just going to set one side in, fold it once on top of itself. We also need to make sure that we rinse the line when we're done with it. You can put it away wet because the box has drainage holes in it. Lastly, Sean is going to reattach the basic Vang with the pin and the ring ding. It's important to note that we have 4 of these laser race kits, but the type of line and the color of the line is sometimes different between the boxes. Despite this, the length of the line in all the boxes is the same. So if you can rig one box, you should be able to rig any of them.